Hi, and welcome to this episode of the DC Live podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Georgie, and today we're going to chat with someone about something in the life of our church. Well, today we are joined by Emily Oliver.
Hello, Emily Oliver.
Thanks for joining us today. And Emily is actually our ChildSafe Coordinator at Disciples Church. And she serves on the volunteer staff team of the church, particularly, obviously, with our kiddies. So it's great to have you here and to ask you a few probably more detailed questions about what you do and the things that the kids get up to on a Sunday normally at DC as well. So first of all, kids and DC seem to go really well together because we have lots. Anyone who's been through our doors has probably worked that out pretty quickly.
DC, we do children.
We do children.
Yeah.
There's a very high ratio of small people running around
and we love them.
Our church, which, yes, we do. But that obviously means that there's a lot of things we need to be doing to keep them safe and to look after them really well.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not the authority on this matter because I've only been at DC for a few years and I've only been in this role pretty much this year. And you know what happened to 2020. But lots to do. But this is we've been engaging in these child-safe principles for a long time, long before I came along. So obviously a bit of forethought went into.
Yeah.
So what exactly is ChildSafe and how does that help us to keep our children safe?
So ChildSafe is, if you run the words together, ChildSafe is actually a not-for-profit child harm prevention charity.
Yep.
And we partner with them, and that's kind of a catchphrase, but we really do partner with them to run a system that helps us to administer our people and our programs.
Yeah.
And it also helps us to provide training. We get resources off them, policy, framework, things like that. Lots of industry advice as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned there a few words that started with P. I believe there are 3 Ps that are really applicable here. So what are they?
Yeah, so their little phrase is SP3. So safe people, safe programs, and safe places. So it's about it's a holistic approach. It's about not focusing on just having people who are vetted and thinking we're good, or just monitoring the situation and thinking, yep, all the hazards have been removed and we're good. So it's about looking at all these things as a system and, not getting a false sense of security from honing in on little details.
Yeah, and they're all important because I guess each of those things is going to affect any children who is in our church, the people they're obviously interacting with. What was the other one? The places where they are. So obviously, like you said, keeping it safe and keeping it welcome. Yeah. And the third one was the programs that we're running. They're all just as important as each other.
Yeah.
So, look, if someone wants to come on board and wants to join one of our ministry teams that looks after our children, what do they do to do that?
Well, for starters, you have to be a member.
Yep.
And then you go through an appointment process. And so that would start with the member contacting Vanessa, who's our ministry director.
Yep.
And she would put them forward to me. And we would go through a few basic steps to begin with, such as a blue card application.
Yep.
So that's Queensland's version of a working with children check.
Yep.
So police checks into background and
that sort of stuff.
That sort of stuff, yes.
Yeah.
And after that, we want references, including your MCG leader, specifically geared towards, is this person going to be a good applicant to work with children and will they work under the direction of a team leader? So I haven't really spoken about that, but I can in a moment.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And the member thing is that's important because we want people to have, skin in the game. Like we want people who have covenanted with us to serve on team, join the team. And because we want to protect our children. Like it's not that we want to put all these hoops in your way. It's because we want you to join us and go through this process to make sure that our kids are safe.
Yeah, and it's also really relevant in terms of the references because we do need to know people well if they're going to be put forward to serve on these teams.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, children are one of our most precious commodities. They're obviously very dear to all of us, and we want to be doing the right thing. We want to be looking after them and knowing that if we're entrusting them to a particular program or particular people at church or anywhere, they're safe. And that, we can be comforted in that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so if whose job is it to approve any kind of ministry event which involves children?
So that would be me. Mm-hmm. So when we talked about the SP3, now, just disclaimer here, I'm really nervous and I'm fiddling with my phone.
You're doing a great job.
Deleted permanently my notes. I retrieved them from the deleted folder and then deleted them.
That's fantastic.
Well done.
So
you're very talented.
You're the expert though, so
we off the cuff.
We trust you. It's all good.
Yeah.
So approving programs, SP3, one of the checks on programs would be the team leader designs that program.
Yep.
They think about the people who will be on their team. They think about the activities they're going to be doing generally, as well as maybe specifically on this week or that week, and they try and plan around the risks that may be involved. And probably the more people you have thinking about that, the more you're going to think of tripping down stairs and this and that and the other. And so we think about the risks and we also try to mitigate them. And some of those may be that an activity is planned and it's too risky. We decide, no, it's too likely that we will encounter this risk, or even if it's unlikely, the risk is too much. The consequence is too high. But the team leader thinks about all those things and then they put the program forward to me, and it's called permission to proceed process. And I review that. I go through the same things, try and think of all the risks and have they covered all their bases, and only after the program has permission to proceed can that program, be that DC Youth or the upper
whatever
kids
it is,
program, can begin.
So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens around, when people actually eventually see a program or an event. That there's a level of comfort that somebody like yourself has put in thinking into, what are the ifs and buts about this, and making sure that we're doing what we can to keep our kids and our youth safe through various measures. And so that should give people some comfort.
And even the people, the same thing, the people who are involved in ministry go through not just the reference checks and the blue card check, but they also undergo a training module. They go through a training module, I should say, and we redo all of these things every 3 years. And even with blue cards, we're linked into it, so if something happens, we get notified. If ChildSafe, the group, bring out new training, we have access to that and our people can go through it.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's cool.
So, there's obviously a lot that you do, which a lot of us don't know about, because a lot of this is behind the scenes. We may not even be aware of those discussions or that research and all of those processes that you're going through. But often, unfortunately, we often hear about the bad stuff. So let's say there was an incident. What happens if there is a problem, if, there's an accident or someone gets hurt or something that was unforeseen occurs? What happens when there is an incident, as awful and as much as we don't want that to happen?
Well, I guess there's a few different types of incidences. If there's an accident, there is a procedure for filling in a form and all that kind of thing. But generally speaking, every program has a first aider and they have a team leader who's on site, ready to respond. And there's a procedure for following there, but also the report, which is done and put through to me, means that we have a chance to then go back and go, did we miss something? Do we need to review this program? Do we need to cut this section or put in extra safety controls? But there's also disclosures, allegations of abuse that could occur. And of course we hope that this kind of thing will never happen, that it doesn't exist, but we know that we need to prepare for the the eventuality that it may, and so we do have processes in place for that. And I guess it's really important that people know if there is a disclosure of abuse, that it will be taken as fact.
Yeah, seriously.
People will be believed.
Yeah.
They'll receive care.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can't promise to keep secrets because we need to take care of these people, and that involves mandatory reporting.
Yep.
Yeah. So what happens then if that does happen, there's a disclosure of abuse or an allegation of abuse, does that mean it's something that you deal with or that we deal with as a church? Is that the responsibility of the church?
Corporately, any such allegations would be kept confidential to protect the victim. But like I said, not secret. We would take these things to the police. It's not just mandatory, but part of our duty of care.
Yeah.
But if, say, it involved someone in the church, that person would be stood down from ministry immediately, pending a resolution by the police or of the child safety authorities. And it isn't us that would undertake to investigate it.
External.
Yep. Yeah. We wouldn't be looking for mitigating factors or anything like that. We offer pastoral care, belief. We would take it to the police.
Yeah.
And
Like the people who know what they're doing do it and look after it.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, like you said, we're looking after the victims and those who are involved in the potential incident until we know one way or the other from those who can actually have the resources to find that out.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I suppose, we've put all this stuff in place to protect our kids. We'd hope that none of that stuff ever happened in our church. And so we've got these systems in place for that very reason. But if something was to happen, we've also got the policies and procedures to follow up on that appropriately. And so we take that very seriously.
That's exactly part of having this ChildSafe system, is not just prevention, but also having a robust procedure in place to deal with anything that does come up and to learn from it as well.
Yeah, that's great. Protection and prevention.
Now, we've seen during the COVID restrictions that so much of life's interactions can now happen online through various, technology and so forth. Does this impact our ministry to children in any way?
I ought not to answer anything that could... it's not my place to say what Vanessa and Sly and Nate have had to do. And
we're very grateful to them as well for their the way that they've stepped up to this very different platform of online learning.
Yeah, we all have. Yeah,
massive pivot. But we have a code of practice that people who volunteer should adhere to in terms of standards of behaviour, and it has a small section on social media. But having had to, embrace this whole online interaction thing in a big way, it warranted making a full-on social media document. So, basically the basic principle really is that our standards of behaviour and interaction should be the same as they are in person. The protections for children should be the same as in a face-to-face program. And you might think that that if it's online, well then a lot of the risks drop away, but that's actually not really accurate.
There's other risks that happen.
Other risks and a lot of even from external influences, a lot of online predatory behaviour has been going up in the last couple of months. It's really big in the news, you might have seen, and so a lot of thought had to go into how we make sure we protect people in our programs. We want the parents to be equally as informed and as involved as they would be if they were dropping their kids off on a Sunday morning or a Friday night, and have the same ability to go back and contact the leaders if they need to, or know what their kids are doing, even if it's on the phone.
I think it's, I know often having young children myself, and even the name ChildSafe, I often think, we're obviously talking about primary age children, young children who are very vulnerable and very, innocent and young. But this is, we're caring for children and teenagers, and those teenagers, they're on social media, they're online, this is not new to them. So it is really, really important to be having these systems in place and to be doing it well, not just to protect all of our children of all ages, but also to be giving them what they do need and to be providing the great things that social media and online platforms can provide, and doing that in a safe environment, like you said, just as safe as if they were being dropped off at church on a Friday night. It might look a bit different, but hopefully the impact is the same in terms of the benefits to our children's ministry programs, and they're also just as safe.
Good, very good. Emily, what encourages you in the role of ChildSafe Coordinator?
Well, like I said, this has been in place longer than I've been here.
Yeah.
And I presume much longer than there were 70 or 80 children in the program.
Yeah.
How many is it now? Do we know?
I don't know. Quite a few.
I'm sure it's multiplied in the last 3 months.
Keeps
That's
growing.
a growth factor involved.
Yes. Exponential.
But obviously a lot of forethought went into it to engage in a program like ChildSafe, who have, they're adhering to the best national standards, where we have this ability to learn from not just other people's mistakes, but from a massive network, from experts in the field. It's not just us going it alone. So we have the best tools that maybe we've ever been able to access. And people or a program or an organisation who is partnering with us to upskill and improve ourselves. And so I think that it's a good time to be in children's ministry.
Yeah.
We're coming out of a really dark period and lots of awful reporting. But we can learn a lot. We can move forward, knowing that we're really meeting those benchmarks. We're going to learn and we're going to do better. And so it's satisfying to know that can happen safely, and we can deliver the gospel in a way that is just protective of our children as well.
Yeah, uninhibited by all that mess and red tape, which is great.
And things will come up, and that's part of having the system in place. We can't just say we're going to be protected. That's great, but we can be robust and know that we can, we're doing our best to keep things safe, and we can respond to things when they arise and continue to offer that kind of care, and hopefully the gospel will be unhindered by
That's great.
any such issues.
Yeah. And people, they don't need to have unnecessary barriers in the way to hear the good news, which is what we're all about. So,
that's it's all very encouraging. So thank you, and thank you for sharing with us today a little bit about how it all works. Why it is important.
Why we have it.
But thank you for serving not just the church but our children in that way as well, and protecting all of them and all of us with all those things which which none of us seem to know much about, because you've taken care of it beautifully, and we know that we're in good hands.
To be clear, a lot of the pre-work was done by Hannah in particular.
Yes,
we have picked up the ball, and
we have a
well
great
done, Hannah. Shout out to
team.
Hannah.
It's beautiful. So thank you very much, and thanks for joining us today.
And you've done so well, even with your tech fail.
Yes,
it's
very good job.
It's so just keeping it natural.
Yeah.
So
we'd love to have everyone and anyone come and join us in this little chat. So thanks for doing it with us this time.
Thanks, Emily.
If you'd like more information about what's going on at Disciples Church, check out our website.
Or email us at podcast@disciples.org.au if you have any questions or feedback. Thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next week.